What's up, Jews for Jesus friends and family? We're here in Israel right now in the Tel Aviv branch of Jews for Jesus. I'm with Dan Sered, the COO of Jews for Jesus. Dan, you came out here during the war. You didn't flee from the war. You're in the States, and you decided that you wanted to actually come to Israel during this time. So thank you so much for being here. And before we get into that topic of why you would come into a war zone, I want to talk about your story. You are a Jewish believer in Jesus. You were born and raised here in Israel. Can you explain to the viewers how does that happen? How does a Jewish guy born in Israel, raised in a Jewish community, put his faith in Jesus as Messiah?
Sure. So thanks, Jeff. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great having you.
So I was born and raised in Herzliya, just north of here, of Tel Aviv. And was raised in a very typical, regular Israeli home. Secular, of course. Mm-hmm. Both my parents came to Israel from Romania and met in Israel, got married. My brother and I, 2 children. And my parents are secular atheists, like most Jewish people, right? Either atheists or agnostics. My parents always told my brother and I that men created God and not vice versa, of course. And even though I was raised in a home like that, I always believed that God was real. I never really bought into my parents' atheism. So, for example, each year when we would celebrate the different holidays, Pesach, Purim, Chanukah, the stories there that are told, revolve around God. And I believed that those stories were true and that God was real and that he really did care and deliver the Jewish people, myself, my ancestors. When I started going to the public schools in Herzliya, and we started learning the Old Testament, just like all the kids.
Yeah, all the kids get their own Bible, right?
First grade.
Their Hebrew scriptures, the Tanakh.
Yeah.
The version that everyone would agree with.
That's right. And not only that, we also got like some other books that kind of teach you the Torah and the different stories, and I bought into all of it.
Yeah.
My faith in God only increased through all of that. So then, of course, I grew up. It was time to get bar mitzvah. Went through all of that ordeal. At that time, I really got exposed more to Orthodox Jews, even though I have some family who are Orthodox Jews, but because we were seculars, there was a little bit of a rift there, But going through my bar mitzvah studies in an Orthodox synagogue, really the only option at that time in Israel,
Right.
And I got exposed, but it never really appealed to me, Believing in God for Israelis mean becoming Orthodox, Haredi.
So at that point, when you're being raised, it's either that or nothing, right? All or nothing.
It's like, and there isn't really much to lean into. So, like for example, for me, even as a teenager, I remember I believed in God. God was real. Didn't want all the rules and regulation and some crazy things, And I just said, hey, I believe in God. It's my faith. And, my parents are seculars. I'm secular. Not really sure what it means. Just continued in my ways. And something very significant, though, happened after my bar mitzvah. And about a year and a half later, my dad's job moved us from Israel to New York. My dad had a long career with the IDF. And at some point, he started working for the Ministry of Defense in Israel. And at that point, he was sent to work on projects on behalf of the State of Israel, the Ministry of Defense, in the States with the DOD and the American military and so on. So that was an earth-shattering event for a 14-and-a-half-year-old now to move to a new culture, a new country, in the middle of 9th grade, attending high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, moved there. We settled, of course, in a very Jewish area on Long Island, which is, in New York, the state of New York, Nassau County. So I graduated from high school, Syosset High School on Long Island. Right after high school, my parents insisted you got to go straight into more schooling. My parents big on schooling. So I started attending university in New York, Stony Brook University. And my dad is an electrical engineer, My mom studied math and later on went into computers. So, of course, myself went into math, just like mom. And while going to Stony Brook, majoring in math, I got a job tutoring students who needed extra help in math. And one day, I'm sitting there and I'm tutoring this girl, and I'm helping her with her math. And as I'm helping her, she recognizes my accent in English, and she asked me if I was Russian. And I said, no way, I am not Russian, I'm Israeli. And she said, oh, that's wonderful, I'm also Jewish. So now we have something in common, right? We're both Jewish, so we continue talking beyond math. And at some point as we're talking, she tells me that she believes in Yeshua. Now, being fluent in Hebrew, as you are, right away, I recognized this word Yeshua. The word Yeshua is the Hebrew word for salvation. But today in Israel, there isn't anybody that is named Yeshua, right? There's nobody, that's not a common name that is used. So I didn't really understand. She says, hey, I believe in Yeshua. So I asked, Yeshua, who is that? Never heard of him. And she says, it's Jesus. And that was a shock for me.
I bet.
2 reasons. First of all, I didn't know that Jesus' Hebrew name was Yeshua, was salvation. Second of all, I've never met a Jewish person who identified themselves as a believer in Jesus, a believer in Yeshua. So naturally, I was curious and I wanted to know more.
Had you learned about Jesus at all here in Israel growing up?
I didn't learn about him, but what I did know is that, my parents who loved to travel, and they took us to Europe, and we went and we visited some churches, and there I saw Jesus, on a cross, or here even in Israel, as we visited some of the different sites. As you know, a lot of them become Catholic churches.
Right.
So I kind of saw Jesus, and I knew some things that people said about him, like that he walked on water. I kind of knew that. But there was a lot that I didn't know. And what this girl did with me is that she actually opened the Old Testament scriptures to me, and she shared with me prophecies about the Messiah. Some of these prophecies I knew. Some of the prophecies I've never heard before. And then she opened the New Testament to me, and she showed me how Yeshua fulfilled each and every one of those prophecies. And that was brand new to me. Like, I didn't know that Jesus was born in Bethlehem. I didn't know that Jesus was from the line of David, from the tribe of Judah. And it shocked me that Jesus, the Messiah, rose from the dead. I've never heard of the resurrection.
Yeah.
Before I heard of Easter, but I never really knew what it was about. And now all of a sudden I'm hearing, wow, and I'm seeing how in the Old Testament the prophets prophesied that the Messiah would come, suffer for our sins, and then rise from the dead on the 3rd day. And now I'm reading about it and I'm seeing, wow, it's Yeshua, it's Jesus. That's what he did.
Yeah.
And it just made perfect sense to me. It was like all the pieces came together. It was logical. It made sense.
And you're one of the most logical thinking human beings I've met. You know what I mean? It's like it has to be really clear and precise and logic and evidence-based,
Yeah. And that's what I found, and it just went alongside with my faith. And it just made perfect sense. So, a few days later, I prayed with her to receive the Lord, kind of sealed the deal. And now I have to say that 2 years later, we got married. So it's Dinah, my wife today.
Yeah.
And like you said, we lived in Israel and most of our marriage, most of our lives at this point. All of our kids were born and raised in Israel as well. And today we live in the States. But, Israel is our home. Our hearts are here.
Yeah. Yeah. Having your kids grow up here and you grow up here, have you faced any kind of resistance or rejection from your family, from friends for your faith in Jesus?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first believed, I actually asked Dinah during that time where she opened the scriptures to me, I said to her, what are my parents going to think about this, which kind of showed you how much it made sense and how much I believe.
Yeah.
and she was honest with me. She said, "Hey, listen, they're probably not gonna like this." And she started praying. Her congregation, church people started praying because she told them about me. And it was a small miracle. It was, when I first actually told my parents, it wasn't so bad.
Mm-hmm.
They actually didn't really understand, and they kind of treated it as a phase in my life, something that would pass. That's actually what they said. They said, whatever, you'll go out of it. It's nonsense.
I heard that too.
Yeah, which was good because that gave me time to kind of grow in my faith and understand more, get discipled.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, they became a lot more hostile, and that was really, really difficult. They don't believe still, but we have hope.
Yeah, we do. Well, thank you for sharing that amazing story, and God's used you in incredible ways since then, and you've stayed strong in your faith, and you're a wonderful teacher of the Bible, which I love. So in light of the current situation here in Israel, we grew up watching movies, right? These action movies, these movies where people come in with the guns and spray everybody down and all this horrific stuff. And, and we wonder, what would I be like in this situation? Does this stuff actually really happen in the world? And then it's happening here in our backyard. It's happening right here to people that we know. Yeah. Yet you in the States watching this happen, busy at work, this unfolds, and you say to yourself, I have to go to Israel. Now, most people in my life are asking me to flee from Israel. And I'm just like, I can't flee from, these are my people. My wife has family here. I want to serve and help instead of run and protect myself. I used to be like that. Yeah. But you came here. Why did you come here?
Yeah. So when this happened on October 7th, a day that forever, it's going to be a day of mourning, day of remembrance, awful day. Right away, our first instinct was we want to come, we want to be here because this is our home. And yes, we live in the States. States is home as well, I guess. But really, this is where our heart is. Mm-hmm. And here in Israel, we have family, of course, but we have so many brothers and sisters who in many ways are even closer to us than family. A congregation that we love.
Yeah.
And
that you used to pastor at as well.
Yeah, that's right, for 17 years. And we, both Dinah and I, just wanted to be here, and we got here as soon as we can. And a lot of it is just to show solidarity and just to say, hey, we're here, we're standing with you. And also to come and say, you're not alone. And there are, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people just praying and supporting you and standing with you and with us. Mm-hmm. And this situation is not just affecting Israel and the Jewish community and the Jewish people in Israel, right, but it's affecting Jewish people across the world, and it's affecting people across the world.
Yeah.
And brothers and sisters. So we wanted to be here to see how we can help, how we can encourage. Mm-hmm. And also we just wanted to be here with our people.
Right. I understand.
I mean, to just be here present, and I've had people who came to me and said, hey, both believers and unbelievers, I've got a Jewish mom. Can you imagine it?
Right.
She's in the States. She's like, what are you going? Yeah. Don't go. And we understand all of that. We're not here to judge, but everybody has a role to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to my mom the other day, and I said, I'm sorry that you have to go through this.
Yeah.
That your son and daughter-in-law and our family is here in Israel, and you have to worry out there. I'm sorry that you have, but we talk every day, twice a day now. It's brought us closer together, which is great. So, as the COO of Jews for Jesus, you know what's going on worldwide with Jews for Jesus. Yeah. We exist in many cities across the world.
Yeah.
What is Jews for Jesus doing at large right now? Right. To come and stand by and help the situation here in Israel?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, the most important thing that we could do is come together and pray. And we have launched, through social media, through our newsletter, print letters, just launched a massive force of prayer. Mm-hmm. Where I said I get hundreds of people just saying, hey, we're praying, how can we pray? And I know it's larger than what I see or what I get, because we know there are hundreds of thousands, millions of people who are just looking and praying, and prayer is the most important thing, right? Sometimes that we can do, we don't do enough of it.
Right.
So first of all, launched this massive prayer and just praying for protection for Israel, protection for Jewish communities. And we've seen now an incredible rise in anti-Semitism all across the globe. And we're standing firm, and we're trying to engage the church and Christians, and a lot are coming behind us and behind Jewish communities and Jewish people to stand and speak out against it. To speak out against this evil. And we've started bringing in support to Israel. So even Dinah and I were able to bring in 4 large suitcases with just supplies and stuff that the IDF has requested that we get.
Healthcare supplies
and tactical knee pads. And tourniquets, and different things.
And we don't want to give the impression that the Israeli army isn't supplied and isn't ready for action, but they have just called up hundreds of thousands of people at a split notice, and there's a scramble, there's a preparing, and the whole country has come together. I want to tell you a quick story. I went down to deliver some much needed goods and necessities to some displaced families down in the Dead Sea. So they came up from Sderot to stay at the Dead Sea Hotel there. And I'm bringing this, and I get in a conversation with a gentleman there. His name is Gabby, or Gabrielle, actually. And we're talking, and he says, my friends were killed. They were laying on the ground for a couple of days before someone could actually get to them. And my heart was just broken. And I'm an hour away from all this, and I feel so far away.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you the story to talk about the heart of the Jewish person, the heart of the Israeli here in Israel. I said, I was so blessed by this conversation with you, and I'm happy to be able to help, but I really feel like I can't do enough for you. And I said, but I have to go now, and I have to fix my flat tire in my car that I got pulling up into the driveway here. And he says, no. He gets his son, and he says, we're going to change it for you.
Uh-huh.
He takes his son outside, and they're cranking the car up, and they're taking the wheel off, fixing it, putting it back on. I barely even got my hands dirty. And it blessed me so much to see that the people that are in shock and grieving and mourning are still open to help us. And so I'm just so glad that you came here, and tell us a little bit more about.
So that's what it's really about. Your story is so perfect because it's really about the individual. So sure, the IDF, they have supplies, bringing in huge shipments or whatever. We're just bringing in, by comparison, a small amount. Mm-hmm. But what it's really about, it's about the individual and the person. So, just coming in and we're hearing a need, somebody needs a meal or somebody needs a tactical knee pad or whatever, and we're able to go and give it to them. Because sometimes, when you have such a big, massive things, you cannot lose the individual.
Right.
And that's what we don't want to see happen. We want to be able to provide meals and whatever we can for each one, each family, each individual. And it's this individual basis, one-on-one. And that's what we're doing globally, trying to love and serve our Jewish people, our Jewish community.
Right.
And this is not really something that we have kind of invented. We're not so great.
Right.
It's really following Yeshua's example. Because, this idea of coming and being with us, that's what Yeshua did. He came down from glory, from heaven. He came in and he dwelt among us. And he just, Yeshua could have done things to the masses, which he did. He did a lot of massive, kind of crowd ministry. But most of his ministry was what? Was one-on-one, was personal, was individual, So we know that there is a huge need out there, but we know that also there are individuals and there are people. So it's not about the hundreds of thousands of tons of equipment. It's about the individual person. And that's what we're all about. And that's what we're all about. So we want to serve the Jewish community in Berlin right now that's suffering. And in New York City. And hey, the Jewish community and our people here in Israel, if it's a displaced family from the south, or if it's a soldier that's serving up north, or if it's just some children who need some encouragement here in our neighborhood of Tel Aviv, Florentine. where we were able to cheer them up by bringing in some puppies for them to play with.
Wow, cute. Yeah, and even our own families. I have children. I have small children. I have a 14-year-old down to a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And trust me, they don't like hearing the sirens. They don't like hearing the windows shake when the bombs are either exploded out of the air or hit the ground. It's tough for them, but they're still able to sleep. They're still able to play, and they have the support. And so it's up to us to also lift them up during this time as well.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, Jeff, it's not the first time we have gone through this. I remember in 2014 when I had small kids. All my kids are much older than you. My kids are now bigger.
Yeah.
And my, when we were here in 2014, and when there were sirens, and in the middle of the night, you have to, carry your kids and put them in a safe room. It's not fun. It's not fun for us. It's not fun for them. But we remember that at the end of it, our safety and our security, and as much as we appreciate and love this country and the leaders of this country that we're called to pray for them, even when we disagree with them, or the amazing Israeli defense force that we have.
Yeah.
Our security and our defense doesn't come from them; it comes from the Lord.
Absolutely.
So that's who we look to. That's what our hope is in.
Yes, indeed. And I want to actually talk a little bit about some prophecy. Just a little bit. I want to go into the Bible a little bit, and I want to talk about the things that you've seen growing up in Israel. You went through the war where they were firing Scuds from Iraq, was it?
Yeah.
And during that time, there was gas masks. Fear of chemical warfare.
That's what we did. We had to have a room, and they said an internal room if you can, and we had to put like plastic coverings.
Yeah, fortified.
So and then you had to go run into it and then put your masks on. And then when they discovered that those a lot of the Scots didn't have chemical stuff, they said, okay, go to the bomb shelter, which where we lived in Herzliya, there was one in the building. And we had to run, and we first had to seal it. So we put like plastic stuff on it. Then we would have to run down to the bomb shelter, close the door and put the gas masks on. The whole building, with everybody. It was really scary time.
Yeah, I bet.
For children. Still is. It's crazy.
Yeah. So as through time, what I've noticed, and it's pretty obvious throughout history that mass waves of Jewish people come back to Israel.
Yeah.
And they come back to the land of Israel for specific reasons. And sometimes these things happen. War breaks out. Something happens, and the Jewish people are either coming away from something or coming towards something. But even if they don't want to leave where they are, we still find them coming back to Israel.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about some biblical prophecy being fulfilled in our time, and people coming back to Israel, and anything you might want to touch on from the Bible.
So let's start off with the establishment of this miracle. The state of Israel, the establishment of Israel is a miracle. Think about it. I mean, there was no Jewish state for a while now, right? We were again in the diaspora, and the largest Jewish community on earth, in Poland, now is pretty much exterminated, right? The Holocaust and all the persecution and the pogroms, and who would have thought, that you would have a state of Israel? I mean, you go back to the 1920s, about 100 years ago, and that was not a possibility. There is no way. And then you got, World War I where it ends, and then you're going into World War II. And let's say you lived through it like my grandparents did. Anybody thought that there is any way that you could have a country, a place for the Jewish people? No way.
Yeah.
And you've got this crazy book, the Bible, that talks about how God is going to bring and establish the Jewish people back in Israel. And you look at it and you say, wow, that's crazy. If you believe in it, maybe you start figuring out, how should we interpret these prophets? It can't be literally true. So maybe this is talking about not Israel, but it talks about spiritual Israel. Or you come up with all these theories because there's no way that you could have a state of Israel. And lo and behold, God takes something as awful and as tragic as the Holocaust. And I mean, this miracle, 1948, this country is established, we lead through, and of course we know the story, 1967, now Jerusalem is the is united. Right away in 1948, Jerusalem was already considered the capital, but Jerusalem was divided, But now it's unified, and we've got all the holy sites for Jewish people are now under Israeli control. So it's just amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
And in many ways, there's been a lot of comparison between what happened on October 7th. A lot of people have rightfully pointed out that was the worst day in Jewish history since the Holocaust, because you've never had a day with so many Jewish deaths in one, in a few hours, really.
Right.
So it's incredible. It's just, it's tragic.
Right.
The evil that we see all of a sudden, that we remember from the Holocaust. So what's happening? Where is God in all of that? And where God is suffering. God is with us. God is heartbroken over this type of evil. And I can't help but think, okay, what is God going to do next? I mean, from the Holocaust, we saw the birth of State of Israel. I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't, but I trust that God is in charge. He's in control. And at the end of it, I'm comforted knowing that He's a promise keeper. So even during the Holocaust, where you thought that it was all lost and all the Jewish people are going to be destroyed, what happened? State of Israel is birthed.
Right.
The Jewish population is increasing more and more and more. It's a miracle.
It is a miracle. And also, it's great to be here and actually witness prophecy unfolding in front of our eyes. So
all the wars and rumors of wars, we're seeing that. We don't want to set any dates because, we don't know. Very clear from Scripture, who knows the times of the return, of the second return. But all these wars and Israel being the focus.
Yeah.
What is that going to lead to, Jeff? I got to be honest with you, I don't 100% sure know. But what I do know is that we are closer to the second coming. And that's our future hope. That's what we're looking towards to. And we know that in the meantime, we have a lot of work to do in evangelism, right? And bringing the good news, the gospel, to Jewish people and really to all people. We know that more and more people and countries are going to turn against Israel and against the Jewish people. And we know that despite it all, God works to protect His people.
Yeah.
It's two different entities, but He works to prepare to protect His body and the church, Jew and Gentiles that love Him, that believe in Him, and He works to protect the apple of His eye. Israel.
Yeah. You were talking earlier about the individual.
Yeah.
This is about the individual. I just want to address all the individuals out there. You that are watching, we've heard your prayers. We've seen them coming in. We've seen your support for Israel. And we want to thank you for your support that's enabled us to provide the care and necessary items that Israelis and the soldiers are needing in this specific time. Dan, is there anything you'd like to say to the people that are watching right now before we close?
Yeah, I want to say thank you, of course, for supporting, for partnering, for praying. And I want to say that this is our time to unify, to stand against evil, to speak up. And if you know any Jewish person, and this is the time that you could really extend to them some love. You can say to them, I'm praying for you. I'm standing with you. I'm standing for Israel. And I'm so proud of brothers and sisters. I know many in the United States who have now decided to display the Israeli flag and to say, hey, I'm standing with Israel. I'm standing with you. And that is very important for a Jewish person. And that could lead you to speak to them of the hope that you have. And the love that you have for the Jewish Messiah, for Jesus, and just to come alongside them and love and serve them. And of course, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, pray for Israel. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dan, for being here today and sharing your story and your experience with us.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thanks.
So if you like this kind of content, give the video a thumbs up and leave your comments down below for Dan or myself. Thank you for watching once again, and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.